Why me? How long? When will this end? This has been the cry of confused and tormented humanity before and after the time of Job. All of you, on a spiritual path to wholeness, must pass again and again through the valley of the shadow that is fear. Again and again suffer the pain of the separation from God. Again and again commit and recommit yourself to your faith, to your growth, and yet the struggle seems never to end. And in this time, in this life, the life of graduation, the life of reaching and accepting the wholeness of being that is the human destiny. Mind, body, and spirit as one. As we have said again and again, this journey is fueled by faith. How easy to say, how difficult to live, when all about you are apparent evidences that would deny your faith. When the confirmation that you seek is so often elusive. When you feel and experience the pain and wonder, where is the joy? Where is the promised joy? You who are awakening entered on this new spiritual path with dreams of peace and harmony, wholeness and joy, transcendence, leaving behind the pain, the fear, the shadow that plagues human life. And you are led on seemingly by a carrot just out of your reach. A little more faith, a little more time. Wait, be patient, have faith. You say, well, for how long? And you feel cheated, disappointed, betrayed. Haven't you done your level best? Haven't you given every ounce of courage? Haven't you done all that you could to be patient, to learn to love and to receive love, to change your life, to open the door to growth and to new pathways? Yes, you berate yourself for your apparent failures, for all the times that you reach and just miss. You berate yourself for falling short of your own ideals, the goal that you have set out in front of you, bright and shining and unattainable, a goal of perfection. You have learned in your faith, in your openness, to accept and to believe the most outrageous things that set your neighbors' heads to shaking and your relatives wondering if they should sign the commitment papers. And you say, I know it sounds crazy, but it's real. There is a communication within. There is energy in crystals. There are extraterrestrials. Well, how do you know? I know. I think. And so now, having traveled this narrow, crooked, back-turning path, going through all of the issues that you have to deal with and to release, bravely struggling on, you come to a time that is a demarcation between darkness and light, a twilight, a pre-dawn, the ghost left of the night, the promise of the light, a never land, a limbo, a time of enormous change, enormous energy change. That's not an abstract term. Yes, there's a lot of energy changes going on. It's not like the rain or a blizzard. An energy change isn't something that happens around you. It becomes you. It enters you. It changes you. You adapt to it, you assimilate to it, you respond to it. You learn gradually what it means in your life. It's a powerful, powerful experience. And in this period of time, now there has been an ongoing onslaught of powerful energy changes over the last number of years. And over the last 3 years, this is the 3rd year, of the release of that long-promised, long-heralded return, the Christ, as energy. Does that take the heart out of the gift? Does it make it too abstract? Because it is the love, the heart of Christ, the fruit of the experience of temptation, submission, torment, death, and transformation and rebirth. You have lived in your human lives since the time of Jesus the Christ. You have retraced the steps of that model of the future, of that paradigm of reality. You have gone through the temptations and you have given in to the temptations. You have experienced the sin, the shadow, the fear. You have been experiencing the death, the psychic death, the spiritual death. The death that is the doorway to your true birth. And now, finally, lifetime after lifetime of darkness, of victimization, of powerlessness, of alienation, of separation from reality, of the belief in an illusion. Now finally the end. How can it be? There's another challenge to your faith. How can it be? Why now? Why me? In this life. Because you may believe wholeheartedly in multiple incarnations, but it's not as real to you as this life here. And so you say, well, doesn't it stretch credulity a bit to think that this life is that life of transformation, that time that the Christ returns, that time that I accept and am transformed by that energy? Well, it had to come sometime. Why not now? All the signs are there for those who will see. The signs of the ending and the signs of the beginning. The signs of the deepness of darkness before dawn's rays chase it forever away. And in each of your lives, in one department or another, or all, you have been experiencing the effects of these massive energy changes, additions, and adjustments. Particularly in the last few weeks. We've heard many different descriptions. Oh, I can't sleep. I wake up again and again. Or I can't stay awake. All I want to do is sleep. We have heard all sorts of experiences. And you look in your newspaper, and you look at your neighbors, and you look in your own life. And you see crisis. And you see shadow. And you sense in now your heightened perceptions the vast forces of change that are affecting every area of human life, and your mother, the earth, as well. And it is chaotic. Once again, the earth seems without form and void. Old verities vanishing like smoke. Old belief systems. You scarcely know who you are or where you are. That which has guided you in the past has proven a weak reed. Those beliefs about yourself vanishing. And the big question mark, who am I? What's going on here? Where am I going? And why am I being denied? Why are my hopes and my desires being betrayed? What has all this sacrifice been for? My neighbors who have not chosen this path and have not been chosen by it are doing fine. Why have I gone through all of this? We've said to you all along, this pathway is fueled by faith. Faith is built by questioning, by doubt, by fear, and the overcoming of that fear. Your faith grows and strengthens. But never before on this path have you been challenged as you are being challenged now. You are being challenged to finally be yourselves. To let go of all of the masks, all of the disguises, all of the crutches. To let go of all of the past. This life and all of those other lives. You are ending your caterpillar life and becoming a butterfly. But picture, if you will, what must take place in that cocoon to render such an enormous change. This is a time in your lives that is at once flooded with new light and darkened. For you cannot see your way because the old signposts have vanished. The knowledge, the old maps, no longer pertain. What shall I do? Who am I? The recognition that follows will be the greatest recognition of all of your lives. But follows when? Not another stall. Not another delay. Well, just this much longer. No, not another stall and not another delay. Your metamorphosis, your transformation, has come to the point where you're about to break from the cocoon and stretch your wings to be filled with a power you have not known in human life. A power, a God power of strength, of clarity, of vision, of finally uniting your scattered forces, banishing fear, fully realizing the purpose of your life. Not off in some far distant future, not pie in the sky. Now, this year, this month, next month, not gradually, but in a series of sudden starts, you awaken to yourself. You are not clones of each other. And that is why we've always said to you, for heaven's sakes, don't compare yourselves with each other. You are individuals because you are intended to be unique. Each of you with a unique path, a unique journey, and complete free will to make your choices. Now, gradually, more and more of your choices are choices based upon love and courage and faith. Less and less upon fear and avoidance, darkness. But you are awakening. The long night is over. And the sun is breaking through the clouds. What is that going to mean for you? It's going to mean that the final vestiges of the past fall from you during the course of this year. During the course of this year, day by day, moment by moment, you will become more and more yourself, more and more aware of what your true nature is, what you want and what you don't want, what you will accept, what you will not accept. What are the true desires of your being, not the whims of the ego? And what must you do to fully realize your wholeness? A year of great decisions, and yet each decision led to by the one before. Click, 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 click. Speed. Yes, finally, speed. Rapid change. You're going to, from time to time, long for those days of endless patience, waiting for something to happen. We speak to you on this subject tonight because it is virtually universal. You have, one way and another, and sometimes you don't give, most often, you don't give yourselves credit for the hurdles that you have leaped along the way. Because as we say, you've always set before you an ideal that you can never attain, and so you're never satisfied with the steps that you take, thinking they should have been bigger and longer and faster. But in fact, you have met challenge after challenge after challenge after challenge. And yet, you are here, you are on this path, you are willingly on this path. You have not been shaken, you have not been destroyed, you have not been turned away. And now is the final hurdle. Now the darkness must be Stygian, inky blackness. So you cannot get your bearings, so you cannot see the future, so you're completely divorced from the path, so that you seem like an island in the void. Because even in your awakening, in the joy and enthusiasm and dedication that you have given to this work of awakening, you have had plans, and you have had goals. Because you believed, with all of your history as human beings, that that's what you had to have. Plans and goals and means and ends. So that you could figure out what to do next. And the ego would cheerfully contribute to all of those plans, saying, wouldn't be nice if. And if we're going to do that, how about this? And why not this and this and this? And you say, yes, I'll keep my feet on this path. And I believe, I think, I expect that by next year or next month or by Tuesday, this vision I have will be real. And there's nothing wrong with the vision. We're not talking about selfish visions. We're not talking about evil plans. We're talking about a desire to serve, to be of use, to be at peace, motivating all of these plans and expectations. But you have been still in the cocoon, half one thing and half another, not knowing yet what form you will finally take, not understanding that the time of the mind, working alone, desperately figuring out some sort of system of rationality, of expectability, of logic, hopefully building a structure to cling to on this spinning little planet in the middle of a lot of space. And so the mind, knowing itself to be in charge, has created a way of being to keep you relatively sane. So that you think, well, in order to have any form to my life, any security, I've got to have plans. And so you create them. And even though, isn't it interesting, even though throughout this life, and all of the others, throughout this life, you have made plan after plan after plan, always full of hope, full of desire, full of determination, and not a one of them ever turned out the way you had in mind. And yet, that doesn't stop you. You bravely plow in again, saying, well, I'll patch it up here, and I'll add a little wing here, and I'll do a bit of work up here, and I'll have a nearly good as new plan. And that one will come true. And it doesn't. Because you're operating crippled, blind, deaf, and dumb. But now you've been allowing in the Spirit. The Spirit. Your Spirit. That about you that is eternal. Not this temporary envelope of flesh. Not the mind and its loneliness. But the Spirit that lives forever. The Spirit, one with God. The Spirit, knowing why you are here, knowing what to do next, and knowing that there's no need to plan beyond next. And gradually, that once unheard voice is beginning to make an impact on you. And you're not even sure how. Because all of this time of thinking about it and hearing about the Spirit and the voice of the Spirit, you've been listening and listening and listening, waiting for a little voice. A little voice that would say, okay, now do this, and now turn left, and now walk straight. And you discover there isn't any little voice. But you are doing things measurably differently. You are responding to old fear triggers with new courage. You are, despite your fears and insecurities, making major changes in your lives. Why? How? Because you are integrating the Spirit. Because the key has been turned The door has been opened. The Christ has entered your life and your being. And you're gaining wisdom and understanding. You are growing. Willy-nilly. Because the addition of these energies, what does it do? Does it immediately make you Superman? No, it throws you into a spin. Oh, what is that? It's too powerful. Each time, and we've said before, this Christ energy has been released in waves. Everything in the universe is rhythm and music. And here the waves of energy, each wave lapping a little higher, a little more powerful, because you grow in your strength as you assimilate each new wave of energy. Well, you have never experienced anything like the energy of this past year on into this present time, beginning roughly with the powerful vibrational effects, particularly on the psychic senses of the supernova about a year ago. And then during the time of the harmonic convergence, if each one of you begin to, if you keep a diary or a journal, look back and see how the screws tightened right then. See how everything seemed to get out of control and all of the expectations began to go down the drain. The rise of universal bewilderment. Well, that was a hard time, a difficult time. And the point of all of these expectations being disappointed, being frustrated, and finally being swept out the door, is to make the point that expectations are futile and undesirable. That if you are looking at that far goal, you're missing a lot of what's going on around you now. That if you're looking to see what plan you can make to get from here to there, what incentive you can give yourself to keep going. What's my 5-year plan? A 5-year plan. But you had to have all of your expectations confounded, denied and destroyed, for you to finally learn that expectations don't work. To finally force you into the moment. That is faith. That is radical trust. And that, of course, brings up all of the strictures from the past. Watch out for tomorrow. Put away your nuts now so that you can eat in the winter. Be careful. Be cautious. And to live moment from moment is not caution. It is faith. It is trust. It is being one with yourself, providing the proper environment for your spirit. Your spirit isn't taking over. This is a troika. A triunity of body, mind, and spirit. Each self having its own purpose and use and intelligence and consciousness. But as spirit enters in to this partnership, because all of life is a spiritual journey, that wisdom, the understanding, the quality of eternality of the spirit enters all of the selves. So it's not any longer 3 parts put together, but a single unit. You, whole, one. Old ways won't work. You're a new kind of being. We've said this before, and it's only words until you experience it. You are no longer Homo sapien. It may take science a while to discover that, but it's the fact. You are no longer the thinking human being. You are the complete and the triune human being. The form of humanity that was inherent in your being is now manifest. Well, when a new technology replaces an old technology, you've got to go along with it and recognize that the rules are different. Things don't work in the old way, and you can't keep trying the old way because it will never work for you again because you've abandoned it. And it's only your memory, only your knee-jerk reactions that keep you trying to do things in the old way. You are these things now. You are beings of power. That is to say, you can manifest reality. The energy of the Christ empowers you to learn to become one with that Christhood, to be miracle workers, by old human terms, to have true dominion over yourselves, to live instinctively, intuitionally, to make the kind of decisions that you're beginning to make that seems so sudden, so abrupt, so arbitrary, but which you very quickly discover are decisions enhanced by the wisdom of your spirit. They're not shots in the dark, not idle or vain wishes. I'm just going to hold my nose and push a button and hope it's the right one. It is the reality of your wholeness manifesting itself in your day-to-day lives. And that is part of what makes it so difficult to see that your prayers have been answered and your dreams have come true. Because you live in the same body, and pretty much you look into the mirror and see the same face. And for some of you, you go to the same job, and you live on the same block, and you watch television and the shows are the same, and you see the news and it's worse than ever, but basically unchanged. And yet, magic, according to all previous understandings, magic is happening in your life. How do you reconcile being surrounded by the old caterpillar life when you wish to fly? You are the pioneers. We've said this before and we can't say it enough. You need to accept the credit for that, for one thing. Oh, accept credit? That's not very spiritual, is it? Yes, accept credit. Be proud of it. You know, it's not by accident that you're out here in the forefront. You've earned it. You've earned it. By everything that you have done, by all of the breakthroughs you've made in this life and in other lives. Not an accident. You're here because you can manage it, where many others would be broken in the process. There's never been a thing like this, an evolutionary step that takes place in one lifetime, a true transformation, not a gradual evolution, but a sudden explosion of new awareness, of new being. Do not underestimate the task that you have taken upon yourself. And do not undervalue the enormous strides that you have taken. Now comes gradually, no, not gradually, rather quickly, the conscious, fully conscious awareness of what has been taking place within you in the cocoon. Now the new life begins. When we speak at the end of next month, we're going to be talking about just that. Goodbye forever to the past and all it meant to you. Because there was precious little in it of joy. And you will stand, as some of you are beginning to be aware now, and look back and wonder that you were ever able to keep going in a life, in a world so dominated by fear. You're finally going to be able to give yourselves credit for your courage when you see just how dark the darkness was and just how lost you were. You have assumed a great task, a task that can have only one outcome: the changing of a reality, the birth into wholeness, an entirely new journey for the human race, and you are at its beginnings. You are its founders. You are its progenitors. This darkness that you've been experiencing is the darkness of confusion. That was necessary as an old pattern ends and a new pattern is not yet formed. That time is ending now. This final challenge to your faith, when you have seen everything that you thought you wanted decaying and disappearing, you're going out naked into the world, newborn, with no a priori assumptions, no built-in expectations, willing to live in that moving moment that is the only true reality, willing to stretch yourself, willing to redefine yourself, willing to build your spiritual muscles, willing to pioneer. And in each of your lives, always differently expressed because you are unique, in each of your lives, that transformation will shed a light that will draw others. The light of your life itself, the living of it, the courage that you show, the differences that people gradually and reluctantly admit to themselves that they see in you. And we say to you, yes, you have a task, all of you. It is not to go into all the world and preach the gospel, not this time. It's certainly not to drag people kicking and screaming into a new awareness. It is to be the Christ. Not such a big order, is it? It is to discover, to unfold, to reveal within yourself the balance of this life and other lives to come. Just what that means. Christhood. The acceptance of that transforming energy of love until it is you. And what you do with it. What it means in your life. To love without qualification. What does it mean in my life among the caterpillars? Well, it means that you're going to be able to tolerate traffic jams much better. That you won't have an apoplectic stroke at that fellow that dodges in front of your car. It's going to mean that, lo and behold, you seem less tempted to yell at your children. It's going to mean a greater and greater disbelief and astonishment that anyone would want to hurt someone else. It's going to mean looking kindly, not just upon those that you accept that you love or must love, those you have chosen to love and your relatives. It's going to finally mean that all creatures of God are one with you. And that's not just an easy phrase. That you will, in your transformation, be touched by the commonality between you and all other human beings, all other aspects of God that you encounter on this journey. And you know, that light in you, that acceptance, is going to be felt by everyone you deal with. And without preaching at them, without saying a word specifically about the Spirit or love, but by your life, by your energy, by the way you see and respond, you will shed light. Others will flock to you and be opened by you. You will show them your wares in your life by being you. And they'll ask, what is it with you? I used to think you were crazy, but something good is obviously going on with you. You look younger. You look healthier. You look happier. How do I get some of that? You open your experience. You lead the horse to water. That's it. You live your life. And those who have said, well, all of that talk about love yourself as just selfishness. You're supposed to love everyone else and sacrifice yourself. That's the accepted wisdom of the ages and of the religions. And they're going to see in your life what you've accomplished by learning to love yourself. That you've opened yourself like a flower. That you shed that love like sunlight wherever you go. That your cup runneth over. That's going to attract some attention. And it's also, let's face it, going to attract some attention from those who are absolutely and forever opposed to any program, any opening, any understanding that doesn't fit their belief system. Well, that's all very well, but it can't be true because this is true. And there's going to be opposition. We want to say this very earnestly and very simply. We emphasize to you that this is an opening to joy, that your lives are going to be transformed by that joy. But we say to you also, don't lose yourselves in the clouds. Just as your own beliefs about yourself and what your path would be like, and how wonderful it was going to be full of light and full of love and smiling upon all, to see that disappear into the reality just as magnificent but more real of being a true human being anchored on earth, with your being transformed by the heavens. You are the advance guards of this change. What you have gone through in your lives and on your path, all of that darkness, all of that fear, everything that tried to hold you back, is spreading over the earth and throughout humanity. And some are awakening, and more will awaken. But many more have chosen to sleep, chosen to stay in the dream, even as it becomes increasingly a nightmare. And they will denounce those who make another choice. And we say this not to frighten you, because there is no fear. As you continue to awaken, you continue to become more and more aware that fear is a joke. That you are intimately so one with God that no disaster can befall you, because the term disaster is no longer a part of your vocabulary. You will be realizing your strength so much more clearly that the challenges to your faith that will continue to come to you, you are able finally to smile at and say, okay, we'll tackle this one now, and mean it. There is nothing to fear. But you need to be aware that there is a change going on that will bring your present civilization to an end. And soon. In fact, it's ending now. And when the historians of the future, be there any, look back at this time, they will say, yes, here's this, and here's this, and here's this. And we see now the crumbling of the old, as we didn't see it when we were surrounded by it. You'll see it. You're sensitized to it. You're aware. You know what's going on. Maybe not chapter and verse, but enough. As the earth heads pell-mell into its birth and death crisis, it will become very clear. But your lights will burn strongly, stronger and stronger as the time goes on. You will be building while others are destroying. You will be emerging into the light as others retreat further into the dark. But there will be more and more to join you, and every light in every one of you will start another, and another light, and another light. And when you are old and ready to move on, you will look around you at a new world. A new reality, not perfect, not heaven. Heaven's for heaven. Not heaven. But a new and renewed earth, a new and renewed humanity, beginning finally to deal with each other out of love and respect, understanding and wisdom. You will not live to see the completion of that dream in this life, but all of the incarnations that flow from this will be incarnations of wholeness. And you individually and you as humanity will finally define yourselves, finally complete your tasks, finally realize your wholeness. And the faith so hard won today, so much under fire, is the foundation of a new life for you and for humanity. And now we will pause for a brief break, and then we will come back and answer your questions. Yes.
Plautus, when do you think the energy will let up so we can sleep again?
Yes. You know, it's not so much a matter of the energy letting up. It's really you're accustoming yourselves to the energy. Each time you've moved up a step, your own personal energy vibrations change with each step. This has been a big step. And so the assimilation, the full assimilation of this energy may take a little while, but it comes to a point where there may still be a little bit of strain and wakefulness and so forth. But, you know, part of the wakefulness, for those of you who are experiencing that, has to do with the dream information that you are getting. Yes, it's the energy that keeps you in a state of preternatural awareness and alertness, but also a finger is being pointed, an arrow is being pointed at particular dreams. And when you awaken during the night, be alert for the vestiges of dreams. Sometimes you'll remember them clearly, but even try to haul them back in if they're floating away out, and allow them to float back in, and then go through the dreams. Take a good look at them and write them down or tape them or whatever you would like to do, whether it's in the morning or in the middle of the night, because you are dealing so much with the residue as well, the residue of changes already made and the root changes that are still being completed now, that there's so much, you see, that's going on that is beneath your conscious notice yet. You're getting more aware of what the roots of your pain have been, but in excising these last vestiges, you are getting help, and you're getting dreams that point directly at exactly what you're working on. And they're going to be symbolic by and large, but by this time you're getting more perceptive in your analysis of your own dreams. You're growing wiser and more alert. So to answer your question, there isn't a blanket answer, but we're going to say that it's going to vary a little bit from individual to individual, but we'd say that the profound energy experiences of this month will be joined by the eclipse connected Christ energy surge in March, and that we would say that by Easter is the time that you may generally think of, as you may mark that time on your calendar, as being the end of death and the beginning of life. Yes.
Plautus? I know that in the past you've advocated eating meat, and I've heard other guidance now that says it's time to wean ourselves of eating flesh.
Well, we want to say this. This is in connection with a couple of things. One is that we've said again and again, where some of you pathmates go astray is in feeling that the things of the earth are beneath you, and that you want to rid yourselves of earthly things, because the energy that you're receiving is of such a high nature, the vibrational rate in rising and increasing. There is a refinement of the spirit that is going on that's going to alter many things in your life, many habit patterns, including the fuel that you ingest. And so the fuel that you ingest is increasingly important to you, that you do listen to your body in the changes that you make. Now, for some of you, you're going to move into gradually into a situation where at least a modified vegetarian diet will be more agreeable to you. The issue of taking life really doesn't enter into it, since life is never taken and always recycled, and since plants are as alive as you are, or the cow that you turn into hamburger. The means taken for the sacrifice are very, very incorrect. This, for those who choose to continue to eat meat, and again we say, listen to your body. If you stop needing it, you'll stop wanting it, except out of habit, and it'll start to disagree with you. We would say that it's likely that, as far as red meat goes, it'll become less and less a part of your regular diet, but become, not now. And we say specifically, not now. You're under enormous stress. That stress burns energy, and you need to replenish it. You are of the earth. You are as inseparable from the earth as you are inseparable from God. Your physical being is an earth manifestation. You are, as human beings, designed pretty much to be omnivorous. You'll eat anything. And And, you're going to be your own best judge of this, but we would say, on the whole, it's likely that there's going to be, for most individuals, a continuing desire and need to have that kind of protein as a part of your diet. This stress, this pressure, this energy that is affecting you, of course, is affecting Earth, is affecting all of humanity. This process of transformation is an extremely stressful process. You have gone through, or in now, the most difficult time of your own transformation, but Earth and the balance of humanity has it yet to enjoy. And so you are going to be in a period of time of massive change. Now, because you are attaining your wholeness, it doesn't mean that you're going to be impervious to the changes going around you. You're going to be more adaptable. You're going to be more centered. You are going to be able to rise above a great deal because of your enhanced understanding of the nature of the process and your enhanced understanding of yourself. But you are not going to become utterly independent of the rest of human life. You are integrated into that life. You are not to draw your wagons into a circle in the midst of the hostile environment. You are to alter that environment by your presence. And so again, we say it's a personal choice. We feel that in the present generation, because you are the generation of transition, it is likely that your eating patterns will continue to include flesh of one kind or another. But trust yourselves on that. Yes.
In the future, when we reincarnate, will it be easier to get new bodies without having to go through childhood?
Well, no, you're still going to be following the biological process as long as you are incarnate upon Earth. But childhood's definition is going to change. Now, childhood, romanticized as it has been in recent history, is really a dreadful time and full of fears and helplessness and full of abuse of various kinds. And particularly for matured spirits, it's very difficult to be a child. To have to accept the severe limitations and the constant fear triggering that has been your experience during this long time of duality. But the duality is ending. Lives of wholeness are not comparable to these lives plagued by darkness and fear. And so childhood will be perhaps the idyllic vision that you have had romantically, may well be a real manifestation in the future. And so childhood is not to be regretted as a delay, but to be enjoyed as the dewiness of the first blossom. Yes.
Plautus, you mentioned as though you were beginning time from the time Christ was born. Why then? I mean, there were humanity on Earth for...
Oh, yes, indeed, yes.
Before that.
Yes, we'll briefly cover that. There have been three evolutions in the ongoing adventure of humankind on Earth. The first evolution was the physical evolution, the adaptation of the adaptation of animal form to human spirit needs. That took millions of years for the completion. Then came the release of free will, the release of the mind, the freedom to choose. And that is what we date not from the time of Christ, because that actually preceded the time of Jesus the Christ by several hundred years. But that was a transitional period leading up to the time of Christ. The time of Christ in which the promise was made, in which the vision was given, as to here is what you can become, who you are intrinsically, where the reality truly is. Well, that message was considerably bollocksed up and veiled and politicized and censored and so forth, but enough of it, by plan, remained to serve as a beacon of understanding, however imperfect that understanding may have been. And so that is truly the time in which free will was activated, in which you were given choices. You were given the model, you were shown the light, you were shown the dark, and you were free to choose. Well, you chose the dark, by and large, because you believed in it. You believed in fear. You thought it was real, and you gave it the strength of your belief and the power of your belief, and so it had the power to do you ill. And the power to convince you that you were powerless, the power to convince you that you were without worth, the power to convince you that you were a victim. And it has been this long period of time of gradual understanding of the darkness as illusion, of fear as illusion, and now this breakthrough into the light that signals the wholeness of humanity. Yes?
Plautus, I went to a lecture last weekend, and they said if you die a Democrat, you're a Democrat when you go on the other thing. That isn't all she said about being a Democrat, but I won't go into that. But what is it like when you do die? Are you the same kind of person, or are you different?
Well, that's a good question, and one that we can begin to answer, but probably not answer to your full satisfaction, because there are concepts that you simply haven't grown to understand as yet. But first, your human expectations have a lot to do with the early experiences of what you call death. Your expectations, if you have specific expectations, you believe in life after death, and you believe them conditioned by, let us say, a Baptist childhood that you still cling to, and however far you may have strayed, your image of heaven, the life after death, is it may be pretty vague, filled with harps and golden gates and long boring days, but whatever it is, you see, you will experience that as a sort of halfway house. The trauma and death is certainly has been largely during the age of duality a traumatic event, since you believed in beginnings and endings, and so the experience of the parting from a incarnation is a traumatic experience, and you are given then a vision of what you expect to see. So they say, "Oh, good, there's the Golden Gate, and St. Peter's waving me in, and here's where I sign up for harp lessons." And so it gives you what you expect, and gradually there's a reassimilation into the reality that is beyond this earthly realm. Now, if you have no expectations at all, and you're firmly convinced, even subconsciously, that when you die, that's it. It's no more. There's nothing left. Well, then you do enter into a kind of limbo, an emptiness, and it is in that condition sometimes, either that or when you are so convinced of sin, of your personal sin, that you are convinced deep down that you're going to hell, then you will also find yourself in this limbo. You're not going to go to hell, because hell is a creation of the fear, and it has no objective reality, and you will not be given even the impression of the fiery furnace or whatever your fancy dictates. You will instead be in a place of space, and you will spend... Now, we have to use temporal terms, time terms here, because you're locked into a time consciousness. But in fact, time doesn't have anything to do with it, but we'll refer to it as a period of time that you spend in this sort of limbo before you are gradually persuaded that you're not dead and you're not gone and that there is a life, and then you move into that reality. It's also when you die in that state that this experience of ghosts will generally arise, where you die in fear, in the belief that you are doomed and damned and so forth, that you reject the death, you cling to life, you cling to the earth, you will not allow your spirit to move away, and you think of one obsession or another. Well, I can't leave as long as this house stands, or I can't leave until such and such is decided, or this or that is found. You make up some story, a rationalization really, so that you can hang on to what is more and more gradually fading from your senses. Now, when you go through this transitional period, beyond the veil, when you are united with your whole self, you come to a place. This is so inaccurate, but give you an idea. You come to a place, a condition, a consciousness, an awareness, the home office. And you get to the home office, and you take a look at the experiences of the life that you have just completed, and you critique it. And you say, oh, well, I didn't do so well on that, and I see, that illusion completely captured me, but I see that I made progress in this area and in this area. And then based upon all of that input and your awareness of where you missed and where you hit, then you create, as an aspect of God, you're not alone in this. When you rejoin into wholeness and completeness. And so you make a plan. And you say, well, I didn't do so good in this and in this, so I'd better look at it again from a little different perspective, and maybe I can get the hang of it and see the reality. And but I did okay in that, so I'm maybe not quite done with it, but I'm going to skip it for this time. And so then you put together what you need to learn, what your course of study is going to be at the next quote-unquote incarnation. And that done, then you determine the environment and the conditions and who you're going to be, what you're going to look like, what era you're going to be born in. What do you need to provide the conditions to satisfy the needs? Now, is that all you do? No, and that's where we have to get even vaguer, because your whole being, outside of these tendrils that you inject into this physical universe and these human lives, your whole being is far, far, far beyond your comprehension as a human being. Because you are engaged in multi-layered levels of reality that sound quite confusing from the human perspective, but are quite natural in your expanded form. Because life is eternal, and because you cannot understand even the concept of eternity, you cannot understand that not only are all things possible, but all things are. That you live many, many lives, existences, that you experience, even just in earthly form, you experience the existence of a flower, of an animal, of a bird, of the sea, of the grass, of the sky. But then far, far beyond human experience, you have other lives that you share in other ways with other lessons and other journeys. You have literally all of the time in the world, and your experiencing has no end. And as you grow, you become more and more one with God, and God grows too, and perfection perfects itself endlessly as time goes on. It's full of adventures and excitement. You don't get bored. You don't think, oh, I wish this was over. Eternity is dragging on too long. But it is... and also we have to say, not only do we have difficulty in trying to explain to you what does happen beyond the veil, but it's really not for you to know. It is the reason for this enforced amnesia that is a part of the human experience, so that you can pay attention to the game you're playing now. Yes?
Plautus, as we get into future incarnations in the wholeness, what happens to people now, like terrorists and so forth, who are obviously building up a lot of negative karma? They're going to have to incarnate, assumingly, into some of the same incarnations. Isn't there going to be a lot of turmoil and so forth for people who are whole?
All right, that is again where we wade into deep water, where we go into the land of multiple realities. Nobody is cheated. Nobody doesn't graduate. But in the lives of wholeness that follow this era of Earth human history, there will be, in pretty short order, in this reality, on this earth that you inhabit, there will be these whole lives with a whole different set of matters to deal with, having nothing to do with fear and with duality. But these souls who are undergraduates now, and in some cases kindergartners in the experience of life, go on as you have, learning, maturing, and growing, and finding their way to their own vision and version of 1987, 1988, and so forth and so on. This is all taking place within the mind of God, and there's lots of room for everyone. Yes.
Plautus, could you comment on the significance of the shoulder of the Sphinx crumbling?
Well, it is the crumbling of old things. It is also the pointing the finger at clues that were planted throughout human history of the nature of humanity, guardians of Atlantean knowledge, the myth, and not fairy tale, not fiction, but the myth that is the founding ground of the human journey on earth is marked along the way by such things as the Sphinx, as the pyramids, as Stonehenge, as Easter Island, as this and as that, those puzzling, tantalizing, evocative indications that humanity is not alone on earth, that there is a great mystery that you are a part of. All of these indications that you have needed to keep the fires of faith alive, to keep the awareness of wonder and mystery alive. Well, this is the time of the shedding of the skin, the changing of the scene, the ending of the chapter. And so the decay and the destruction of the path markers of yore are a part of this experience of endings and beginnings. And so the Sphinx and the riddle that the Sphinx has represented, not the one that you read about, that's a very silly riddle and has nothing to do with the riddle that is inherent in the Sphinx, which is the riddle of existence that is being solved in this time and is being accompanied by markers and pointers at various of these indications of the journey. Yes. We're going to end tonight's reading, and we thank you all for your attention, and we bid you Godspeed as the scales fall from your eyes and you awaken into a new life.
Thank you.